Chapter 1602. Yiqing Luo had yet to reply. Zhou Xian was the first to reply. Devil class students killed 52 students from Wind Vein Academy in order to snatch the magic crystals. When the students from various academies heard that, they all looked towards Yiqing Luo's direction in disbelief. Following that, the other academies also heard this sentence. What? Killing people for the magic crystals? Devil class is too arrogant. They even dared to kill people. We must report this matter to Master Gui Wu. This kind of vicious and cruel academy should be expelled from the academy forever. Right. We must report this to Master Gui Wu to the main courtyard. Heavenly Academy is too much. 1,500 over students were gathered in one hall. Just one sentence from each of them could overturn the entire blazing lair. However, the devil class, which was condemned by the masses, remained silent on the spot. Not a single sound was heard and there was no expression on their faces. It was like they didn't listen to anyone's words at all. Hey, devil class, what's with your attitude? Did you really think that you can do anything just because you performed well during the training? A few of the academy's students were already extremely dissatisfied with Yiqing Luo. Especially, there were at least 17 to 18 academies which had their magic crystals stolen by devil class. Now seeing devil class being involved in such a big matter, all of them couldn't wait to step on it a few times to vent the anger in their hearts. Cough. One must know that there were only 28 academies who entered the blazing lair for training. There were 17 to 18 academies which had been robbed. The remaining academies, if it wasn't for the fact that they reacted fast enough to seek cooperation from Nantao Academy, they would probably have been robbed by devil class. One devil class, 50 to 60 people. But they had robbed one after another. The maximum number of people was 300, at least 50 academies. Devil class's ability was indeed very strong. But it was different now. Their various academies were all gathered together. 1,000 over students. Why would they be afraid of a 50 to 60 people devil class? Especially when devil class was involved in a murder case. Even here they had ruthlessly taught a lesson to a bunch of devil class students. By then they could also say that it was because devil class was disobedient after killing someone and forcefully fought with them trying to escape. And they were the envoys of justice stopping devil class. Thinking like this, the various academies' students' gazes towards Yiqing Luo instantly turned sinister. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as her mind kept on spinning rapidly. She didn't have the leisure to pay attention to those insignificant words from the various academies. His mind was filled with strange thoughts. This was too strange. Had she overlooked something? His brain was working non-stop. Suddenly Yiqing Luo's gaze fixed on a certain spot. That was in Xianxia's direction. At this moment, Xianxia was looking at the surrounding students from the various academies, his eyes filled with joy and surprise. Zhou Xian whispered something into Xianxia's ear. Xianxia's face lit up with joy, and his eyes emitted an intense and dense killing intent. Shortly after, the two of them looked at each other and smiled. Immediately after, Zhou Xian held on to Xianxia's arm and was about to take advantage of the commotion to sneak away. However, he heard a cold interrogative voice. Why did you all rush over at the same time? That was Yiqing Luo's voice. The entire audience fell silent for several breaths of time. Even Xianxia and Zhou Xian stopped in their tracks. Chapter 1603. What the? This slut is too arrogant. How dare she question us in return? What does it have to do with you how we rushed over? You're a woman who doesn't hesitate to kill others in order to plunder magic crystals. What rights do you have to question us? Yiqing Luo, you've already violated Ghost Martial Masters competition rules. Your Heavenly Academy has already been eliminated. All the students from the various academies started to berate her furiously. One after another, it shook everyone's ears as though it was pierced by a sharp blade. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her eyes were covered with frost, so cold that it could pierce through one's bones. Her gaze swept past the surrounding students one by one. I'll ask again, why on earth did all of you rush over at the same time? That chilling gaze made the students from the various academies inexplicably tighten their hearts. They were completely stunned by this pair of eyes. Whether it was the heart or the soul, as though they were pinched in the palm of Yiqing Luo's hand. They were powerless to struggle, powerless to break free. This. What kind of imposing manner was this? How arrogant must it be, to be able to make them feel that they couldn't defy it? This majestic aura was actually from a young lady. A young lady who they originally looked down on, released such an imposing manner. Madame Qingluo, we heard the commotion over here and saw. It seemed like it was on fire and was filled with smoke. We thought something had happened, so we came over. The one who spoke was the one who was rescued by the stream. Me too. Right. I was attracted by that ball of smoke, but the minute I came over I only saw you guys. Right, it's smoke. When these words were said by the few academies at the same time, the crowd instantly understood something. Immediately their faces turned pale. Oh no. There's a trap. Suddenly the students from the various academies saw a shadow flashing past in mid-air. In a breath's time, they saw Yi Qingluo standing in front of Xianxia and Zhou Xian. Xianxia was apparently shocked. When Yi Qingluo appeared, she gave a shrill shriek as she retreated several steps backwards. If it wasn't for Zhou Xian who kept pulling her, Xianxia would have fallen onto the ground in a sorry state. What do you want to do? Before Xianxia could finish his sentence, he suddenly let out a miserable shriek. Yi Qingluo directly stretched out her hand and clasped Xianxia's shoulder. Her slender fingers were sparkling like jade, like the most beautiful jade in the world. However, in Xianxia's eyes, those hands were torture tools from hell. Her jade-like fingers seemed to be lightly resting on Xianxia's shoulder. Only Xianxia himself knew. Her shoulder bones had already been crushed by Yi Qingluo. The intense pain caused Xianxia's facial features to contort. Yi Qingluo's elbow slightly exerted force as her 5 fingers clasped onto Xianxia's lower jaw. It's you. A voice as calm as still water came out from Yi Qingluo's mouth. His eyes were ice cold. Emotionless words. This caused Xianxia's heart to gradually sink into a state of collapse. This was not a question. It was a certainty. Yi Qingluo had already guessed that all these were because of her. Xianxia was in so much pain that her face turned pale. However, when she thought about the current situation, she could not help but laugh coldly. So what if it's me? Yi Qingluo, you can no longer escape. All of you will die. Yi Qingluo's lips curled up slightly. Her long and narrow eyes outlined a cold arc. Her 5 fingers tightened again. The lower jawbone was also directly shattered in Yi Qingluo's palm. Chapter 1604. Ah! A miserable shriek rang out from Xianxia's mouth. Yi Qingluo loosened her fingers. Xianxia fell weakly onto the ground. Zhou Xian immediately supported Xianxia. Xianxia opened his mouth, but couldn't utter a single word. Bright red blood oozed from her mouth. You want to kill someone in front of so many students? You simply have no respect for the law. Zhou Xian was so frightened that her entire body trembled. She felt uneasy as she looked at her blood-stained hands. Your debt will be settled by Master Gui Wu and the headquarters. Not only will the 2 of you become the sinners of the Nirvana realm, but your 2 families will also be destroyed because of your foolish actions today. Yi Qingluo's slender brows furrowed slightly as her clear and charming eyes shot straight towards Xianxia. You. His powerful aura was so oppressive that Zhou Xian couldn't even make a sound. Xianxia's fingers trembled as she tightly grasped Zhou Xian's sleeve. His blood-stained hands looked especially horrifying. All of you must die today. Every single word was like a demon demanding his life. The surrounding students felt their hairs stand on end when they saw Xianxia's ferocious and bloody appearance. Get out of here. Yes, let's go first. This place is too strange. After coming to their senses, the leaders of the various academies immediately called out to their students and spread out in all directions. They could stand in the fire nest. This also meant that they were elite students handpicked by the various academies. Not only was he talented, he was also not stupid. After Yi Qingluo's reminder and looking at Xianxia's attitude, then he understood. This was a trap. It's useless. We can't get out of here. Yi Qingluo looked at the students who were escaping in all directions as her eyes were covered with a chilly intent. She had always been vigilant and calculative. However, he didn't expect that the dark faction would use Xianxia and Zhou Xian, these 2 cripples, to set up a forbidden spell formation here. Furthermore, he had lured all of the students here. Dark forces. He was prepared to make his move. How would these students be able to leave this place? As expected, the students who had scattered and left one after another retreated step by step. One by one they returned to their original positions. He forced the students of the academy to retreat step by step. They were rows of black-robed figures. Their imposing manner was like that of evil spirits that had come from hell. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she sized up the surrounding dark forces which were pressing over. As expected, it was just as the mutated beast had said. There were about 400 people in the Dark Coalition. Although there were only 400 Dark Ones from the Dark Forces, but, facing these young men and women who had yet to experience slaughter and had yet to truly step onto the battlefield, Lin Fan's eyes widened. Even if the total number of students added up was 1,500 people, it would be impossible for them to win. But the Dark Forces wanted to deal with them. It was also a piece of cake. This group of dark people. Yiqing Luo could clearly sense the extremely strong profound yin qi on them. These dark beings. It was different from the dark ones she had met before. Be it in terms of strength or intelligence, this batch of dark ones was more than a level higher than the dark ones they had encountered before. What is this? What's going on? Why can't we get out? Why did he come back? And these damn things, who the hell are they? For a moment, the fear in the students' hearts was ignited. Chapter 1605. The students of the various academies were already panicking out of their wits. Boss and I, what should we do? These people don't look friendly. Boss and I, aren't we competing in the academy? These people. Could it be that these people were deliberately sent by Master Gui Wu to increase the pressure on us? Boss and I, can we leave this place alive? Voices filled with fear rang out. The person who was called Boss and I in the middle was Nantao Academy's boss, who was also the academy's representative, Anai Lingkong. Anai Lingkong was the strongest person in Class A1 of Nantao Academy. It was similar to the existence of High Profound Class 2 in the Heavenly Academy, Lu Shuiyu. After entering the Flame Lair for training, Nantao Academy had always listened to Anai Lingkong's orders and persisted until now. Now that something had happened, everyone's first thought was to seek Anai Lingkong's help. Anai Lingkong's expression was grave, as if he was facing a formidable enemy. They had already reached an agreement with 7 or 8 academies. And he was prepared to collect more magic crystals to defeat the Heavenly Academy in one fell swoop. Just as the few academies were discussing how to deal with the devil class. Suddenly, a series of shouts came from not far away. Then he saw black smoke rising from the sky not far away. Just like a fire, black smoke filled the entire nest that was glowing with scarlet flames. The other academies thought that since there were many of them, there was nothing to be afraid of, so they all headed in that direction. Unexpectedly, but he couldn't get out of this damned place. He looked around at the black-robed men surrounding them. Anai Lingkong was not foolish enough to think that this was an opponent sent by Gui Wu to increase their pressure. Anai Lingkong had a bad feeling when he saw the bodies of the 50-odd students from the Wind Vein Academy lying on the ground. Hanshang, what do you think we should do now? Anai Lingkong's vision fell onto his own brother, Mo Hanshang. Mo Hanshang was the young master of the Mercenary Association. He had been in the Mercenary Guild since he was young, following other mercenary groups around. In terms of wilderness survival and actual combat experience, he far surpassed them. Lingkong, this matter isn't simple. These people. I'm afraid they are the Dark Ones from the Dark Forces. Mo Hanshang squinted his delicate brows as he stared at the surrounding black-robed men. Dark Forces? Anai Lingkong's face turned pale. Why would someone from the Dark Organization appear in the Flame Lair? Could it be? Anai Lingkong's gaze suddenly turned towards Yiqing Luo's direction. It's her? She's the one who attracted the Dark Forces. Yiqing Luo had once engaged in a fierce battle with the Dark Forces in King Ling's tomb. With the power of the Holy Beast and the Divine Dragon, they defeated the Dark Forces. Meanwhile, the Dark Forces had infiltrated the Nirvana realm once again, attracting the attention of the major sects and clans, and they worked together to deal with the Dark Forces. What's more, Yiqing Luo and the Imperial Palace's Zhou Xian's relationship was not shallow. Recently, the Imperial Palace had been fighting with the Dark Forces several times. A series of conjectures appeared in his mind, and Anai Lingkong increasingly felt that the Dark Forces were targeting Yiqing Luo. If they were here for Yiqing Luo, then They just had to hand Yiqing Luo over. Wouldn't that solve the problem? Ling Kong, dispel your thoughts. Mo Han Shang could tell what Ni Ling Kong was thinking with a single glance. He calmly lifted his eyelids. If the dark forces were here for Qing Luo, they wouldn't have made such a big fuss. What do you mean? Ni Ling Kong frowned. Chapter 1606. Barrier. Ni Ling Kong cried out in surprise. No wonder. They couldn't leave this place no matter what. It turned out that the way was blocked by a barrier. The barrier was clearly set up by the dark forces. From what Qing Luo said to Xianxia earlier, if I didn't guess wrongly, I'm afraid this dark force was attracted over by Xianxia. This barrier was able to be conjured under the eyes of Gui Wu and the other elders, and it was all because of Xianxia's help. Mo Han Shang's analysis made Ni Ling Kong's expression suddenly turn gloomy. A pair of sharp eyes glared fiercely at Xianxia, who was leaning against Zhou Xian in a sorry state and covered in blood. I've heard that the dark forces have always been enticing profound practitioners to sign soul contracts with them. Mo Han Shang's gaze was solemn, which also represents that the forces of darkness require the souls of profound practitioners, and this time the forces of darkness have trapped us within this barrier, so I'm afraid it's because they want to take away our souls. Take away our souls? Ni Ling Kong's expression turned ugly. Are we all going to die here? Not necessarily. Mo Han Shang suddenly raised his eyes as his gaze went past Ni Ling Kong, looking straight at a certain spot behind him. Cooperate with Qing Luo and drag on till Master Gui Wu breaks the barrier and rushes over to save us. Devil classes Yiqing Luo? Ni Ling Kong's brows creased. Why are you so close to that bunch of people from Devil class? We had just agreed to cooperate with various academies and now we're cooperating with Yiqing Luo. When your life is at stake, the most important thing is to stay alive, isn't it? Mo Han Shang smiled as he patted Ni Ling Kong's shoulder lightly. For the sake of the overall situation, believe in Qing Luo. Ni Ling Kong and Mo Han Shang had been good friends for many years. Ni Ling Kong knew his brother's character very well. He was someone who could make the young master of the Mercenary Association, who was used to seeing outstanding profound practitioners, look at him in a different light. There must be something special about her. With this thought in mind, Ni Ling Kong clenched his fists. All right, I'll believe you this time. Saying that, Ni Ling Kong pushed aside those students behind him and walked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The enemy was right in front of them. Both sides' auras clashed, but no one dared to act rashly. As for the academies, they had placed all their hopes on the Nantao Academy. Seeing this, the boss of Nantao College moved. The gazes of all the students also followed closely. Following that, she saw Ni Ling Kong standing in front of Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she sized up the imposing young man in front of her. Student Yiqing Luo, those people dressed in black robes are the dark forces' dark agents, right? Ni Ling Kong didn't beat around the bush as he spoke out directly. Dark forces? The crowd sucked in a breath of cold air. The whispers of fear and clamor grew louder. When the dark forces heard Ni Ling Kong's question, they sneered disapprovingly. They had no intention of deliberately concealing their identities. Even if they knew that they were dark ones from the dark forces, so what? In the end, these students would still be buried here. Oh, so Boss Ni also knows about the dark forces. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as though she was in deep thoughts. What you said is right. Their bodies are all emitting the dark forces' dark aura. As for Ni Ling Kong's goal, Yiqing Luo could more or less guess what was going on. Chapter 1607. Yiqing Luo glanced behind him with a smile which didn't look like a smile, as though she was hesitating and wanted to speak out. If Nantao Academy were to cooperate with me now, wouldn't we be letting down the other academy's good intentions? What she guessed earlier was indeed right. They had plundered the various academies' magic crystals. Those academies had indeed gone over to Nantao Academy. Now this scenario was a little awkward. A few academies had gone over to Nantao Academy to seek cooperation, seeking to get rid of Heavenly Academy, in order to take revenge for their stolen magic crystals. Now, Nantao Academy's big boss had initiated cooperation with Heavenly Academy's Yiqing Luo. Those few big bosses who had gone over to Nantao Academy had a colorful expression on their faces. Ni Ling Kong was stunned as he turned back to look at those few big bosses and opened his mouth, wanting to explain something. A slender hand was placed on his shoulder. Emo Hanshang walked up slowly as he stared at Yi Qingluo with some reproach. Qingluo, stop making fun of him. Soon after, Emo Hanshang's expression was calm as he looked at the few big bosses of the academy. It's just as what all the students are thinking. These people are all from the dark forces. Moreover, they want to take away all of our lives as well as our souls. Under the current situation, we must unite. Only by surviving can we continue to fight for the academy's competition, isn't that so? Those few big bosses' expressions started to congeal. These people were from the dark forces. If they wanted to escape from the dark forces, then they must rely on themselves. What Emo Hanshang said was very right. Only by surviving would they have the capital to fight. If they lost their lives, what was the point of them seeking refuge to Nantao Academy to go against Heavenly Academy? Right. Only by surviving can we continue to fight for the academy. Now isn't the time for personal grudges. The other party is from the dark forces. I heard that the dark forces are a bunch of devils who kill without batting an eyelid. Their methods are cruel and extremely bloody. Unite. Unite. The few academy students raised their arms and cheered loudly at this instance. It immediately ignited all the students' fighting spirit. Those few academies happened to be the academies which Yi Qingluo had saved by the stream. Yi Qingluo looked at the surrounding students' morale, which was obviously ignited. But this kind of passion didn't last for too long. All of you shut up. A sharp, furious voice came from the Dark Coalition. The Dark Ones slowly dispersed, revealing a small path. One of them was wearing a long black robe. Her figure was curvy under the black robe. Yi Qingqian? When Yi Qingluo saw that person, her slender brows rose slightly into an arc. She had actually come in person. Then, that wolf Saint Law who doted on her to the bone had also come? Yi Qingqian didn't use the black robe to cover her face as she exposed her face in front of everyone's eyes. Her exquisite eyebrows had now become even more alluring and alluring. Just like a real fox. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 were stunned on the spot. Yi Qingqian? You're Yi Qingqian. Someone recognized Yi Qingqian's face. They couldn't believe it. That fickle Yi Qingqian who had become a laughingstock in Three Springs City had actually become a member of the Dark Forces. Moreover, looking at Yi Qingqian's expression, clearly his position in the Dark World was not low. Whoosh, there was a piercing sound. Yi Qingqian's gaze suddenly turned sharp. Chapter 1608. Ah. That Intermediate Profound Class 2 student only felt a cold glint flashing past her face. That cold glint revealed an extremely dense murderous aura. She retreated backwards in horror. But how could her speed match up to the current Yi Qingqian? That burst of profound chi was like a hot knife through butter, directly pressing towards the Intermediate Profound Class 2 student's face. Bam! Just when the Intermediate Profound Class 2 students thought that they were dead meat. But they didn't feel the pain that they had imagined. She quietly opened her eyes. The first thing that entered his eyes was a feather fan that was gorgeous like a fiery glow. The stars and fire were flickering, beautiful beyond compare. Glower Flame Fan. This was Yi Qingluo's Glower Flame Fan. The Intermediate Profound Class 2 students were ecstatic as they looked towards the direction of the feather fan. Sure enough, they saw Yi Qingluo standing by her side, using the Glower Flame Fan to block Yi Qingqian's attack. Madam Qingluo, thank you. Yi Qingluo glanced sideways. Stand aside. The female student had just saved her life. Naturally she didn't dare to disobey as she trembled and returned to her companions. At this moment, the Intermediate Profound Class 2 students looked at Yi Qingqian with shock and astonishment, and also hatred and disgust. Who could have expected that Yi Qingqian, who had a bad reputation, would use such a method to once again appear in front of everyone? From today onwards, please call me Guardian Hu. Yi Qingqian's curved brows, when she spoke, her voice rose, revealing a trace of amorous feelings. If anyone calls this guardian's name wrongly, the next move is not something that Yi Qingluo can block even if she wants to. None of the students dared to open their mouths. Yi Qingluo swayed the Glower Flame Fan. Her footsteps were light as she passed through the crowd and walked towards Yi Qingqian. The students, because of Yi Qingluo's actions, they all sucked in a mouthful of cold air. Everyone's gazes were fixed on Yi Qingluo. That figure, petite and lovely. But it revealed a sense of oppression that couldn't be ignored. slender but proud. You. What do you want to do? Yiqing Qian saw Yiqing Luo walking towards her. Her fear towards Yiqing Luo made her unable to restrain her pale face as she trembled slightly. The scenes of the past. It appeared in front of Yiqing Qian. The humiliation that Yiqing Luo had brought to her. He would never forget it. Hatred and anger surged from Yiqing Qian's heart. There were circles of mysterious yin qi lingering in those amorous eyes. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes and stared at the circle of black qi in Yiqing Qian's eyes as she smiled calmly. Eldest sister really has true love for the wolf saint technique. In order to be together with the wolf saint technique, you can even abandon the Yi family and Three Springs sect. If old ancestor were to find out about this, I wonder if he would fulfill eldest sister's wish to leave the Yi family's genealogy. Yiqing Luo's words pointed out Yiqing Qian's current situation. Wolf saint technique? He was obviously a certain boss of the underground forces. In other words, Yiqing Qian really couldn't change her fickle character. Even after arriving at the underground forces, she still resorted to all sorts of methods to seduce men. That was how she managed to achieve such a position in the underground forces? Heh. Instead of worrying about this protector, why don't you worry more about yourselves? Yiqing Qian gave a cold harumph as her eyes turned chilly. When the array is combined into one, all of you will. She suddenly lowered her voice as she leaned close to Yiqing Luo's ear and spat out a word with a sneer. Die. Silence. A deathly silence. The entire fire lair fell into silence. Chapter 1609. When she heard the last three words, Yiqing Qian's face suddenly turned pale. That voice was clear and ethereal. As though a voice from hell. Using an extremely gentle voice bringing her along to hell. You. Yiqing Qian's heart thumped as she was so frightened that she retreated several steps back. After being supported by the few black-robed men, Yiqing Qian still had some lingering fears. Sinister and vicious eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo, who was pressing on. But she saw Yiqing Luo's lips curling into a smile. Her eyes were calm. That smile, which didn't look like a smile, was gazing at her as though it was bottomless. As though there was a whirlpool, which was pulling her into that whirlpool. Yiqing Qian quivered as her fingers clenched into a fist as her expression turned vigilant. Yiqing Luo. I'd like to see what other great abilities you have. Even if Yiqing Luo had wings now, she would absolutely not be able to escape from this place. Setting up an enchantment and a forbidden spell array. Yiqing Luo would definitely die today. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she waved her feather fan and turned back to Devil Class's side. Long Yunzhan and the rest immediately went up to her. Are you all right? I'm fine. Yiqing Luo saw everyone's worried gazes as she shook her head. This time the dark forces obviously came prepared. Looks like King of Darkness's requirement towards us young and clean cultivator souls is increasing. This also meant that King of Darkness's seal was about to be lifted. So, these students' souls, we must protect them. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her voice turned chilly. Earlier Yiqing Qian mentioned combining the arrays. Is it this forbidden spell array and the array which absorbs our soul power? And I Ruopan asked softly. Yiqing Luo nodded. It should be like this. The dark ones of the dark forces only surrounded them here. They didn't start a massacre. Which was enough to tell that they had a deeper motive. Yiqing Qian's earlier words about combining the arrays, Yiqing Luo hadn't thought deeply into it. And I Ruopan instead saw through the clues. She had to admit that the dark forces had really made sufficient preparations this time round. An unbreakable barrier. A forbidden spell array which could continuously provide the dark forces energy. Coupled with a forbidden spell array which could absorb souls. When these two arrays were completely combined, these 1,000-over students were totally meat on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Qing Luo, you've crossed hands with the dark forces before and you have such a stunning performance in this aspect. How should we leave this ghastly place now? Mo Hanshang also heard their discussion as he opened his mouth to ask with a grave expression. Yiqing Luo looked at the various academies' bosses and they had all automatically gathered around Devil Class's surroundings. Upon hearing Mo Hanshang's question, they all started to speak. Once they heard Mo Hanshang's question, all started. However, they understood that once the formation was united, they would all die here. The reason why the dark forces are so powerful is because they have forbidden spells or secret techniques that our Nirvana realm can't use. Yiqing Luo explained, But this kind of forbidden curse or secret art usage belongs to the act of going against heaven's will, destroying the laws of this heaven way. The person who casts the curse will also suffer the punishment of heaven way. Mo Han Shang's eyes lit up. Your meaning is, as long as we find the person who cast the curse, we can destroy the array? Chapter 16:10. Although that elder's battle power is lacking, his spirit power is extremely strong. Furthermore, he knows a lot of curse techniques and secret techniques. Because of that, the Darkness Protector will definitely protect that elder very well. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept past the surrounding academy's bosses. Mo Han Shang was the first to react. I understand. We have to pay attention to where the Dharma protectors are the most concentrated. That's where the elders who cast the curse are hiding. That's right. Yiqing Luo gave Mo Han Shang an admiring look. This kid's reaction was godly. What should we do? And Ling Kong's brows creased as he looked at Mo Han Shang, who was looking at Yiqing Luo with a look of worship, as his expression was slightly impatient. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she gave a light smile. If you're willing to listen to my instructions, perhaps we might have a chance to destroy the array. The academy bosses' faces darkened as they looked at each other for a long time. Towards Yiqing Luo, all the academies were unable to wholeheartedly trust him. Although the devil class had been performing exceptionally well and outstandingly in the special training recently. However, Yiqing Luo's reputation as the useless seventh Missy had already spread all over the country. A person who had been called trash for more than a decade. It was just a few days of dazzling performance. It really wasn't enough to wash away everyone's perception. Amidst this strange silence, Qianquan Academy's eldest brother Shi Ruoyu replied in a deep voice. My Qianquan Academy will listen to student Yiqing Luo's instructions. Yiqing Luo nodded with a faint smile. After a few breaths' time, another student spoke up. I, Lu Mo Yuan, represent the King College and listen to Yiqing Luo's instructions. Following that, the leaders of the academies expressed their opinions one after another. These academies were mostly the academies which were saved by Yiqing Luo earlier at the riverside. The remaining dozen academies still had some resistance and hesitation in their hearts. After all, this Yiqing Luo had led Devil Class to snatch their magic crystals not too long ago. Now they had to obey Yiqing Luo. It was really difficult to choose. I don't agree. Suddenly, a loud voice rang out. She saw Jitsong Tian arrogantly raising his head. Yiqing Luo, you slut, how dare you deploy my Celestial Phoenix Academy's students? The dark forces have appeared here because of you. Jitsong Tian's words made the entire space sink into a deathly silence. Everyone's eyes were focused on him. Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly as her gaze met Jitsong Tian's eyes. Her pink lips curled up slightly, a smile lingering at the corner of her mouth. Once again she had guessed correctly. This Jitsong Tian was indeed involved with the dark forces. However, this Jitsong Tian wasn't tainted by the profound Yin Qi. It seemed like the dark forces had put in a lot of effort to make her lower her guard. Jitsong Tian's words indeed made some sense. However, it didn't make sense. Her existence was merely a fuse. Even if she wasn't here, the dark forces needed a large number of clean souls of young profound practitioners. He could only start from the various academies. Even if it wasn't now. In the near future, these students would also become food for the King of Darkness. Jitsong Tian saw Yiqing Luo not saying a word. He thought that what Lan Ling Nua had taught him was the truth. Immediately, he straightened his back and snorted coldly. Don't think that I don't know the inside story. The dark forces have chased you all the way here to seek revenge. You want to use everyone's power to help you deal with the dark forces. Jitsong Tian finished his words. The expressions of the dozen or so academy bosses, who were still hesitating, changed drastically. Chapter 16:11. Students like them had no grudges with the dark forces. Why would the underworld organization want their lives? In the various academies, only the devil class of the Heavenly Academy had enmity with the dark forces. If the dark organization had come to the flame lair for revenge, then the dark organization would not have come to the flame lair. It did make sense. Big brother Tsongtian is right, don't even think about using everyone's power. Lan Ling Nuo chimed in. You still haven't given us an explanation for the students of the Wind Vein Academy dying in the blazing nest, and now you're trying to trick us into dying for you. You're too vicious. When Jitsong Tian heard his beloved woman helping him, he became even more complacent. The more the bosses of the academies listened, the more indignant they felt. Wasn't this Yiqing Luo too sinister? He actually wanted to use everyone? Hearing everyone's abuse and doubts towards Yiqing Luo, Shi Ruoxi's eyes instantly turned red as she retorted, "You're the representatives of the academy, are you people who listen to the wind and rain?" Mo Hanshang nodded his head and chimed in. "Student Ji Tian's words have no proof. On what basis do you think that Qing Luo wants to make use of everyone?" His voice paused as an icy cold intent flashed past Mo Hanshang's eyes. "If we're talking about making use of others, I think you Ji Tian are that kind of treacherous villain." Ever since he heard Zhao Bo's story, Mo Hanshang's impression of Ji Tian was extremely bad. "You took advantage of your brother's feelings and trust towards you. For the sake of Lanling Nuo, you killed your own brother who has gone through life and death with you. Even now, you don't have any regrets and are still together with this woman." Mo Hanshang gave a cold laugh. "Just based on your character, whatever you say, I won't believe a single word." Ji Tian's face instantly sunk. One's dark history was actually brought out in the open. No one would be able to tolerate it. In the past, they were afraid of Mo Hanshang because Mo Hanshang was the Mercenary Association's young patriarch. Now his Ji family had been completely blacklisted by the Mercenary Union. Why would he need to curry favor with a young master? Immediately, Ji Tian's face turned black as he released Lanling Nuo's waist as he raised his palm and struck out a palm wind towards Mo Hanshang. Ji Tian. Mo Hanshang's expression sunk as he raised his hand to counterattack. His shoulder was pressed down by a slender palm. A red feather fan flashed with an enchanting brilliance. It easily blocked Ji Tian's palm wind. Yiqing Luo slowly walked past Mo Hanshang and stood in front of him as her eyes squinted as she looked at Ji Tian quietly. Her face was expressionless and her eyes were cold. Ji Tian's body trembled slightly, and under that gaze he actually wanted to kneel down and beg for mercy. Ji Tian resisted the urge to embarrass himself as he went on full alert. "Don't waste time with him. He's just trying to stall for time." Yiqing Luo's chilly voice drifted into everyone's ears. Like a clap of thunder, every word and sentence struck the hearts of everyone present. "If you don't believe me, feel free to leave. Of course, if the dark forces try to stop you from leaving, I won't help you at all. If you trust me, then don't say anything more and hurry up." The leaders of the dozen academies hesitated. She looked at Ji Tian's direction for some time. In the end, there were 5 to 6 academies who gritted their teeth and walked towards Yiqing Luo. With this departure, several academies also followed closely behind. After all, it was a matter of life and death. No one dared to use their own lives or their fellow students' lives to gamble. In the end, no matter how Ji Tian shouted. Chapter 16:12. Yiqing Luo used the shortest time possible to arrange the various academies' students into their respective responsibilities. After a few days of training, Yiqing Luo more or less had some understanding towards the various academies' comprehensive ability. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to lead the devil class to plunder 18 academies' magic crystals so smoothly. From the start to the end, there wasn't any special activity from the dark forces. Xianxia stood in front of the dark forces as she sneered at them. That gaze seemed as though she was looking at an ant struggling at death's door. It could be seen that the dark forces had made sufficient preparations this time round. They also had absolute confidence to take in all the students' souls. Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision glanced at Xianxia's complacent expression as a cold smile flashed past her eyes. Seeing the dark forces being so arrogant, she was even more assured towards her own plan. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she looked at the students who were all ready to go into action and laughed lightly. "Before we start, I still need to settle something." Saying that, she turned around and faced Xianxia's direction. Zhou Xian was supporting Xianxia, who was covered in blood and moaning in pain as they left silently. They were already far away from the crowd and were just a few steps away from leaving the array barrier. Suddenly, the surroundings became extremely quiet. Zhou Xian's footsteps halted as she felt a chill down her spine. She realized something as she turned her head around. Indeed, she saw Yiqing Luo's arms were crossed as she looked at Xianxia and her direction with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Zhou Xian's legs turned into jelly as she immediately supported Xianxia and quickened her footsteps as they dashed forward. Behind her, a ghostly laughter followed closely. "Did you think That you helped them to bury the erase medium, the dark forces would let you off just because of that? That voice was right beside her ears. Zhou Xian was so frightened that her legs turned into jelly as she didn't manage to support Xianxia properly. She was even tripped by Xianxia's leg. The both of them fell onto the ground. What dark forces, you're spouting rubbish. Zhou Xiaoyan's body trembled as she looked at Yiqing Luo in terror. We didn't help the dark forces, we obviously only. Shut up. Xianxia endured the pain as he berated Zhou Xiaoyan angrily and subsequently stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. It's your people who said that everything must be based on evidence. We don't know any dark forces at all. How could we help them bury a matrix medium? Yiqing Luo slowly curled her dimples into a smile. The area of this forbidden spell array is so huge, in order to bury the medium, it must have taken up quite a lot of time. And the person who buried the medium, his hands should have been tainted with thick profound yin qi. As soon as she finished speaking, Zhou Xiaoyan had already reflexively raised her hand and sniffed it. Idiot. Xianxia gritted his teeth and glared at Zhou Xiaoyan. Only then did Zhou Xiaoyan realize her mistake and hurriedly put her hands behind her back. However, her instinctive behavior had already fallen into the eyes of the students from the various academies. Yes or no, I will not say for now. Yiqing Luo squatted down and her fingertips suddenly flicked out a pill and slipped it into Xianxia's mouth. Xianxia wanted to vomit, but the pill melted in her mouth. Following that, Yiqing Luo popped another pill into Zhou Xiaoyan's mouth. In the blink of an eye, their bodies were so stiff that they could not move. No matter how much strength they used, their bodies were like rocks. Yiqing Luo lifted her leg and casually kicked the both of them to a spot not too far away. Chapter 16:13. Madam Qing Luo, you might as well kill this kind of person. Why should we spare her life? So this whatever array, this barrier, is the medium which the both of them buried. If we don't kill them, how are we going to appease our anger? The students were filled with righteous indignation. All of them couldn't wait to tear out Xianxia and Zhou Xiaoyan's tendons and bones. It was these two people who had caused them to fall into this life and death predicament. Death to them is a release. Yiqing Luo sneered. I believe that Master Gui Wu and the headquarters will help us to settle the both of them. The students' clamoring voices stopped. They instantly understood Yiqing Luo's plan. Indeed, if these two sluts died so quickly, wouldn't it be a release for them? If this matter were to be blown to the headquarters, in order to give an explanation to the various academies and large clans, they would definitely use all methods to find out the whereabouts of the dark forces from Xianxia and Zhou Xiaoyan. These two people's clans, they would definitely be destroyed. This was the biggest punishment for these two sluts. Yiqing Luo used the same method to kick Ji Tsongtian and Lan Ling Noa to Xianxia's side. The reason was in case someone created trouble later on. As for the other Celestial Phoenix Academy's students, their boss was gone. Other than submitting to Yiqing Luo, they had no other choice. Moreover, they heard that Ji Tsongtian had killed a few brothers from his mercenary group for Lan Ling Noa. How would Celestial Phoenix Academy's students have the mood to sell their lives for Ji Tsongtian? Everyone, including those from the dark forces, had not seen it at all. At the same time, when Yiqing Luo fed the pills into their mouths, her fingertips flicked out an extremely small crystal clear pearl. That pearl fell into the sand on the ground, and in a blink of an eye, it was swept away by the sand. In a blink of an eye, the ground was already empty. Yiqing Luo returned to the front of the crowd as her vision looked towards Yiqing Qian, who was standing in front. Your expression tells me that the two arrays are about to merge into one. Yiqing Qian's eyes were filled with viciousness. That's right. But I've always liked to watch the Prey's final struggle, especially. You personally put on a show. What a coincidence. I also like to see the drama of the complacent Prey dying a tragic death in despair when their plans fail. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. Yiqing Qian's expression sunk as she looked viciously at the dark ones beside her. All of you, play with these fellows who don't know what's good for you and enjoy the feeling of Prey struggling. Yes. Guardian who? The dark ones responded in unison. Following that, the dark one's aura suddenly burst forth as they took the initiative to attack. In this area of the curse array, their dark yin qi could be supplied continuously. Torturing these students was a piece of cake. Devil class students, release your weights. Yiqing Luo's vision swept across the crowd, and the weighted soft armor on you remove it. Everyone was taken aback. They seemed to have just realized that they were also wearing soft armors that weighed about 70 kilograms. After a few days of hard and tiring training, they had almost forgotten about this matter. When Yiqing Luo mentioned it, all the students used their fastest speed to remove the weighted soft armor. The moment the weight-bearing soft armor landed on the ground, they could clearly feel the changes brought about by their own bodies. Light as a feather. Chapter 16:14. Bam bam bam. Bam bam bam. While the students from various academies were shocked at how light they were as feathers, they heard the sound of a heavy object falling onto the ground. The students looked towards the source of the sound. Then they saw Devil Class's group of perverts undoing a strap on their wrists, undoing the straps on their waists and legs. That strap landed on the ground. It was even louder than the soft armors. Wasn't this a weight belt? This group of perverts. Not only were they wearing the specially made soft armors by Ghost martial artist, their forelimbs were also tied with weight belts? Did they need to be so perverted? The students from various academies were so shocked that their hearts were trembling. Some students didn't believe it. They specially went up to pick up the weight belt. But that weight pressed that student's veins were popping out before he could barely lift it up. A loud dong sound was heard. The student really couldn't lift it up properly as the weight belt in his hands fell onto the ground. In the students' minds there were only 3 words existing. True. Change. Abnormal. What are you all still standing there for? Waiting for death? Yiqing Luo's cold voice rang sharply. The students from various academies heard a buzzing sound in their ears. Their consciousness suddenly became clear, only to see in front of them the dark ones covering the sky and earth, attacking in groups. The students cried out in shock. They had not regained their senses in time. Just as the students were trying to avoid the dark one's attack, suddenly, a red glow appeared in front of them, as swift as thunder, as fast as lightning, as though it was weaving an impenetrable large net in front of the students. Boom! A loud sound was heard. The dark one's attack fell into that large net. In a split second, profound light surged. That large net was imposing, filled with murderous intent. The dark ones who were the first to rush up. At the moment when that profound chi struck, they were sent flying. This strike gave those students a chance to avoid the danger. The students' figures immediately evaded as they looked towards the front. They were all astonished. They simply couldn't believe their own eyes. They saw that slender and elegant figure, wielding the glower flame fan, gently sweeping it. That large net which blocked the Dark One's attack at this moment, suddenly dispersed. They transformed into strands of sharp, profound energy that directly sealed off the attacks of the Dark Ones. Just now, it was Yiqing Luo who saved them. It was Yiqing Luo's attack which gave them a chance to catch a breather. Then all the students saw the woman whom they had never been able to truly trust, the woman whom they were unwilling to submit to. He walked among the hundreds of Dark Ones with extreme ease. The devouring flame fan in her hand. It was like the sharpest blade in the world. Wherever it went, blood spurted out. One by one the Dark Ones fell to the ground. Yiqing Luo's actions were still continuing. Her footwork was so strange that the Dark Ones could not touch her at all. Wherever the glowing flame fan waved, the Dark Ones could not dodge at all. 10 corpses of the Dark Ones fell to the ground, 20 Dark One corpses fell to the ground, 30 Dark One corpses fell to the ground, 40. This was Yiqing Luo's real ability? As expected of the people supported by those perverts. There's no such thing as the most perverted, only more perverted. Those 1,500 over students finally understood why Yiqing Luo only asked them to split into groups to harass the dark forces. Like Yiqing Luo's ability, she alone could take down these hundreds of dark forces people. This Yiqing Luo. Absolutely not just earth profound realm cultivators. Chapter 16:15. That majestic grandeur. That aura which was above the 9 heavens. How could ordinary cultivators possibly possess it? The various academy students were filled with a surge of confidence. At this moment, no one had any complaints as they started to resist against the attacking positions which Yiqing Luo had set. Whereas at this moment Yiqing Luo, who was wandering among the Dark Ones, saw that everyone had already made their move. His figure flashed and disappeared into the shadows of the students. Ants could swallow an elephant. Although this group of students' abilities were not comparable to the dark forces. But according to her instructions, they suppressed the number of people. This would be able to delay the Dark Ones for some time and ensure that those students would not get hurt. This batch of Dark Ones was as she had expected. As compared to the Dark Ones whom she had met previously, their abilities were much more powerful. This batch should be those who were about to become protectors, but were still 1 or 2 steps away from becoming protectors. She had circled the area just now. It looked so effortless. In actual fact, only she knew how strenuous it was. At this critical juncture, she had to bring out a convincing ability, using her own ability to conquer the various academies' students. Otherwise, those academies who were unresigned once they threw a little tantrum. Today they would definitely die in the hands of the dark forces. Yiqing Luo was in the metal as she spoke in a low voice. Shadow, immediately search for the position of the array core. I've already arranged for a helper to help you in secret. The other brothers, search for the person who cast the curse. Devil class's students split up. Yiqing Luo's sharp vision focused on the direction of the Dark Ones. There were 300 over people who charged forward to attack. There were still 100 over people standing behind Yiqing Qian. As though they were watching a show. Those 100 over Dark Ones were not standing in an orderly manner. Instead, they were scattered here and there. The more it was like this, the more certain Yiqing Luo was. The elder who cast the curse was definitely near those Dark Ones. The moment when Yiqing Luo's figure disappeared, Yiqing Qian acutely sensed it. Her vision had been following Yiqing Luo closely, just in case anything happened. On Yiqing Luo's body she had already seen too many accidents. Yiqing Luo's luck was simply too heaven-defying. Yiqing Qian no longer dared to bet on this 1 in 10,000 chance of Yiqing Luo turning the tables. Yiqing Qian was on high alert as she suppressed her voice and warned the dark man beside her, "Stay alert and sense the surroundings." "Hey my big sister, where's your vigilance?" Just as Yiqing Qian's words landed, a sweet laughter entered Yiqing Qian's ears. This voice was like a huge bell falling heavily into Yiqing Qian's ears. Yiqing Qian turned her head around in shock. She saw Yiqing Luo's repulsive face appearing right in front of her eyes. "Yiqing Luo!" Yiqing Qian bellowed in rage as she turned her hand to attack Yiqing Luo's direction. But Yiqing Luo agilely evaded and raised her leg to kick Yiqing Qian. Yiqing Qian's body flew backwards. She followed closely and stepped on Yiqing Qian's chest with 1 foot. You are despicable." Yiqing Qian knew that Yiqing Luo's speed was fast. But they had not expected Yiqing Luo's speed to be so fast that they didn't even have a chance to breathe. Yiqing Qian spat out a mouthful of blood as her face turned pale and she almost crushed her gums. "I'm just catching them off guard." Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she increased the strength on her leg. She moved swiftly among the few hundred Dark Ones and killed close to 50 of them. What she relied on was catching them off guard, and to hit Yiqing Qian. It really couldn't be said to be catching them off guard. It could only be said. Chapter 16:16. She thought that she was well prepared. She thought that no matter how much ability Yiqing Luo had, there was absolutely no way to escape from the array. She thought that she would be able to see with her own eyes those who had mocked and insulted her go to hell. She thought. But all of them thought. But they had neglected Yiqing Luo's current ability. Earth Profound grade and above ability. The difference of a single grade was like the distance between heaven and earth. Not to mention that she had already stepped into the Sky Profound grade and was known as the Sky Profound Overlord. Dealing with Yiqing Qian was simply too easy. But this indeed couldn't be said that Yiqing Qian had no brains. After all, who would have thought that? Yiqing Luo was merely in the Earth Profound grade 4th grade before she entered the Blazing Flame lair. In a short span of 5 days she became a Sky Profound Overlord. Looking at the entire Nirvana realm. No one has been able to do that. You. Yiqing Qian realized this as her eyes suddenly widened. To be able to move freely among the 300 over dark men. To be able to kill close to 50 of them alone. To be able to silently avoid the remaining 100 over dark men's senses, get close to her and attack her. Such a powerful force. Such an irresistible force. Yiqing Luo was a Sky Profound Overlord. Other than this reason, Yiqing Qian couldn't think of a second reason. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she smiled sweetly. From the corner of her eyes she saw those dark men rushing up to save Yiqing Qian. The smile on her lips grew. Her fingertips turned and the glower flame fan was like a dancing flame as it flipped in her palm. Bursts of valiant force could uproot the mountains and rivers. The moment the glower flame fan appeared, it set off layers of waves and everything on the ground had turned into a whirlpool. Those dark men had yet to get close. Under this powerful whirlwind they were sent flying. Xianxia was the closest. She could clearly feel the terrifying aura surging from Luo. That valiant aura seemed to be able to absorb everything in the world. Xianxia's heart suddenly stopped. The profound yin qi which was circulating recklessly in her eyes flowed chaotically. The aura of death. He felt it. The aura which was getting closer and closer to her. Seeing the despair in Xianxia's eyes, a trace of disdain flashed past Luo's eyes. He gave up struggling just like that. Her good elder sister was someone who could grab onto life-saving straws time and time again when she was about to be destroyed. Make use of your advantages and live on tenaciously like weeds. How could they give up just like that? How could he be willing to die like this? What was Xianxia trying to do? Luo's half-squinted eyes were suffused with a glimmer of rippling luster. Retracting her peripheral vision, she leaned forward slightly. That slender body happened to block Xianxia's line of sight. What are you going to do? Xianxia's face turned pale as she looked at Luo who was closing in on her. The courage in her heart turned into fear. Her delicate body was trembling slightly and her face was pale. No matter how one looked at it, it would make one feel pity for her. Luo chuckled softly as her charming eyes were flowing with luster, becoming increasingly flirtatious. Elder sister, since we are going to die in this place, I naturally have to bring you along to hell. Her voice was a little chilly, but there was also a hint of playfulness in it. When Xianxia heard this, she felt a chill down her spine. Before Xianxia could react, suddenly she heard a shrill scream coming from not too far away. Following that, numerous black-robed men, like a celestial maiden scattering flowers, flew out in all directions. Chapter 16-17. She suddenly regained her senses. She immediately shouted towards the Dark Ones who were still entangled with the 1,000 students. Xianxia knew that Luo was sinister and cunning. She also knew that Luo was full of tricks. He was on guard. But she had not expected that Luo could instigate the students from various academies to listen to her instructions, and even discovered the secret of the array in the shortest time possible. Xianxia's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Luo quietly got close to her and attacked her. It was to attract her attention, to attract the attention of those 100 Dark Ones who had yet to participate in the battle. Luo was pretending to deal with her. It was to create an opportunity for Devil Class's group to find the person who cast the curse. Luo successfully created an opportunity for Devil Class. And also allowed Devil Class to successfully find those elders who were hidden behind the crowd and continuously casting the curse. A total of 10 elders. They lined up in a formation. And beside each elder stood 2 black-robed Dark Ones who were obviously of a higher level. On the black robes there was an eye-catching badge. Devil Class students recognized that it was the symbol of a guardian. The Devil Class students used their fastest speed to kill all the Dark Ones around them. Following that, they went near the elders. Momentarily, the Guardians and Devil Class students were entangled in a battle. Xianxia looked at the disrupted formation in front of her. Looking at the numerous Devil Class students, fiercely attacking the direction of the elders. Her face turned paler and paler. An indescribable restlessness surged in his chest and spread throughout his body. Xianxia herself didn't notice it. At this moment, circles of black profound qi were constantly surging in her eyes, forming a vortex. The scene Luo saw it clearly. Luo narrowed her eyes, quickly loosened the restraint on Xianxia and retreated a few steps. Luo was very clear. The profound yin qi in Xianxia's body, under her irritable mood, started to stir. Shangguan Liuli had mentioned this before. What the dark forces needed was not only souls and resentment. The same logic could be used. What the dark forces needed was not only resentment and all kinds of negative energy emotions. For example, anger and hatred as well as jealousy. This kind of emotion was the easiest to cause the corrosion of the profound yin qi. After Xianxia joined the dark forces, she accepted the transformation of the profound yin qi. He was also often intimate with the Wolf Saint technique, whose body contained countless mysterious yin qi. Naturally, it would also absorb the profound yin qi from the Wolf Saint Dharma. Yiqing Luo was the clearest about the consequences of being corroded by the profound yin qi. Yiqing Luo's vision swept past the students who were battling on both sides. The devil class gradually closed in on the 10 elders. The students of the various academies also used their greatest strength to block the hundreds of dark ones. Everyone was working hard to survive. She absolutely could not let Yiqing Qian spoil her plans. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned slightly cold as her vision returned to Yiqing Qian, who was completely covered by the profound yin qi. She flipped her palm and flicked out a pill. That pill had yet to be flicked into Yiqing Qian's mouth. Yiqing Qian had already reflexively raised her palm, striking that pill to the side. Yiqing Luo, this move of yours can deal with those two trash, but to deal with me, it's not that easy. Yiqing Qian retreated several steps back the moment she was released by Yiqing Luo. Her eyes were filled with viciousness and her eyes were filled with profound yin qi. Chapter 16-18. Yiqing Luo sighed helplessly as she looked at the woman who had turned sinister and terrifying. I want you to die in a comfortable way, but you have to choose this violent way of dying. She shook her head helplessly. After all, you were once my elder sister. As your sister, I can only try my best to satisfy you. Ahaha. Don't just talk big. Yiqing Qian's voice was hoarse as her body gradually floated into the air. The current Yiqing Qian was exceptionally terrifying. That wisp of profound yin qi had already seeped out from Yiqing Qian's eyes. The black qi had encircled Yiqing Qian entirely. She opened her arms. The endless profound yin qi from the surroundings gathered towards her. What is that? Monster. All the students from the various academies looked at Yiqing Qian, who was floating in the sky in terror. One by one they cried out in terror. And this moment of panic gave the dark agents a chance to attack. Momentarily, the students from the various academies were tangled in a fight and the dark agents broke a gap. The students who were charging at the front were immediately sent flying by the dark agents. Oh no. Quickly defend, we can't let them pass. Devil class, be careful, the dark forces are about to pass. The entire scene started to descend into chaos. After the dark agents broke through the students' encirclement, the first thing they did was to rush towards the direction of the devil class. They wanted to prevent the devil class students from getting near the elders. Those elders were the key to completing their mission today. Seti. A loud shout was heard by the students. That voice was sonorous and powerful, firm and full of tension. You only need to take care of the mission that I have given you. Leave the rest to me. That voice had a convincing magical power. It easily soothed the fear and uneasiness in the students' hearts. They saw that young lady dressed in green and white uniform, standing in front of the dark agents in a flash. Facing those dark agents who were swarming over, she didn't show any signs of retreating. Her expression was calm and indifferent. A pair of bewitching eyes flashed with a resolute radiance as she stared ahead. Profound qi surged, intense like fire. The mysterious light that the glowing flame fan shot out was suffused with a devilish red glow. They blotted out the sky and covered the earth as they charged toward the dark ones. That Xianxia was invincible. In everyone's eyes, Yiqing Luo was like a death god who had descended into the world, enough to make everything around her submit to her power. Under that powerful aura, the dark ones felt their chests tighten. Some of the weaker dark ones even coughed up a mouthful of blood. The dark ones in the front row were sent flying. The dark ones immediately gave up on the idea of charging forward. Instead, he tried to break Yiqing Luo's imposing manner from the side. However, they did not have the time to move a single step. The mystical qi, which was like the void, had already landed on the bodies of the dark ones. The entire fiery lair was in a state of intense turmoil. Sky profound supremacy. The dark ones could clearly feel that powerful force. The girl in front of him was only 14 or 15 years old. How could it be a sky profound supreme martial artist? As for those students, after hearing the exclamations of the dark ones, they were shocked. His eyes were filled with astonishment as he looked at Yiqing Luo, whose imposing manner had skyrocketed. Sky profound supreme martial artist? Yiqing Luo was actually a strong sky profound supreme martial artist? Just how deep had she hidden herself? Yiqing Luo, your opponent is me. Behind her, a sinister voice was heard. Chapter 16:19. Bam! A loud sound. That palm wind which was filled with profound yin qi was blocked by the glower flame fan. Yiqing Luo flipped over and lifted her leg to kick Yiqing Qian's abdomen. Yiqing Qian's body flew out like a broken kite. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes, her icy cold gaze without any emotion. Opponent, you're not qualified. Every word was like a sharp silver needle, piercing into Yiqing Qian's ears. Anger at this moment was like a volcano eruption, exploding in her mind. The black qi in Yiqing Qian's eyes became thicker and thicker. The profound yin qi which was constantly released, was like vines, closing in on Yiqing Qian's body. Yiqing Qian's arrogance continued to rise. Ah! Yiqing Qian let out a roar. Endless profound yin qi exploded from her body. Damn it! Yiqing Qian was completely eroded by the profound yin qi. If it was Yiqing Qian, she had 100% confidence she could torture her. But, if it was profound yin qi, and under the condition that the array had not been destroyed, it could continue to absorb the surrounding profound yin qi and keep getting stronger. Perhaps, Yiqing Qian was hesitating. Suddenly, a gust of wind attacked from the right. That profound qi carried the momentum of swallowing mountains and rivers, like a raging wave. Who is it? Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. The moment that gust of wind attacked, her figure suddenly flashed and disappeared into the air. Immediately, a red feather fan appeared out of thin air, sweeping through the air with a piercing sound. Like a rotating spiral knife, it flew towards the direction of the gust of wind. Ding! The sound of weapons colliding, the glower flame fan's attack was disintegrated. The glower flame fan, which had lost the support of profound qi, instantly fell down from the air. A fair little hand suddenly appeared and caught that feather fan steadily. Yiqing Luo did not know when, but she was only 10 steps away from that person who suddenly appeared. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and her gaze fell onto that person. Wolf Saint Law, looks like my elder sister is extremely important to you. The person in front of him wasn't anyone else but Yiqing Qian's female head in the dark forces, Wolf Saint Law. Wolf Saint Technique's malicious eyes stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. His eyes darkened and a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. This Yiqing Luo. It had only been a month since they last met. He had actually stepped into the profound sky realm. This girl's talent was truly too terrifying. If he allowed her to continue to grow, it would definitely be a huge hindrance to the dark forces. Wolf Saint Technique narrowed his sinister eyes as he looked at Yiqing Luo's gaze, which was filled with dense murderous intent. Yiqing Luo naturally sensed that murderous intent. She snorted softly, a hint of mockery appearing in the depths of her eyes. I heard that Wolf Saint Technique's Wolf Saint force has already been completely destroyed, but Wolf Saint Technique still has the heart to come here to save Big Sister. This deep sense of righteousness really moves me. Hearing Yiqing Luo mention about Wolf Saint's forces which had already been annihilated, the killing intent in Wolf Saint Law's eyes intensified. The Wolf Saint force had cost him many years of blood and sweat. However, they were annihilated by that kid from the Imperial Palace. Moreover, they were completely annihilated. There was no room for him to make a comeback at all. If his lord were to awaken at this moment, if his lord knew about this matter, his life would probably be hard to keep. And the reason why the Imperial Palace annihilated Wolf Saint force, everything was because of this young lady in front of him. She still had the cheek to mention Wolf Saint force? Chapter 16:20. Yiqing Luo. I want you to die. I want you to die. Just at this moment, Yiqing Qian, who was still absorbing the profound yin qi, suddenly let out a deafening roar. The black qi surrounding her was getting thicker and thicker. Her black hair, which was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, floated behind her in a horrifying manner. Wolf Saint Art, who was in the midst of attacking, heard that voice. He abruptly stopped his attack. He looked towards Yiqing Qian. The moment he sensed Yiqing Qian being engulfed by the profound yin qi, his expression changed. He speedily rushed towards Yiqing Qian's direction, forcefully pulling the raging Yiqing Qian into his arms. That profound yin qi, when it came into contact with Wolf Saint Art, dissipated. Yiqing Qian, who was still struggling, went limp and fainted in Wolf Saint Art's arms. Wolf Saint Art's expression was gloomy, as he looked at Yiqing Luo with a biting, cold, murderous intent. He opened his mouth and shouted coldly, come out." His voice had just ended when black-robed men appeared one after another. It was the people from the underworld again. Wave after wave, there were at least 130 over of them. The students from various academies, when they saw the medals on those black-robed men, their faces turned pale with fright. These 130 over people from the dark forces. He was not an ordinary dark one, but guardians. 130 over dark guardians, which meant that the battle power of 130 over people, compared to the more than 400 people he saw now, he was much stronger. They were even stronger. And they were not just a little bit stronger. Yiqing Luo's expression turned cold when she saw these 100 over dark guardians. Wolf Saint Art's forces had already been destroyed. Wolf Saint Art could still order his subordinates. These 100 over guardians, could it be? Indeed, Wolf Saint Art ordered coldly, "Protect the 10 elders. You must stop this group of prey from destroying the array." Yiqing Luo's expression changed. These 100 over guardians were indeed not Wolf Saint Art's subordinates. But they were here to stop them from destroying the array. If Wolf Saint Art ordered these 100 over dark guardians to kill her, these dark guardians would definitely not take any action. But to stop them from destroying the array, which was equivalent to fighting against her. This holy wolf technique. Even though he had lost the upper hand, he still wanted to come here and interfere. They wanted to use this opportunity to offer all of their souls to the King of Darkness. To beg for the King of Darkness's forgiveness? Yiqing Luo looked coldly at the wolf saint technique, which was holding Yiqing Qian in his arms, looking at her with a sneer. Her charming eyes slightly narrowed. His gaze became increasingly cold. "With me here, let's see how you plan to stop my brother from destroying the formation." Yiqing Luo's figure stretched out. The gourd flame fan in his hand stirred up waves of Xian qi. They formed a dense net that sealed off the path of the dark protectors. Immediately following that, Yiqing Luo stood alone in front of those guardians. The profound qi in his body rose sharply one after another. "Qing Luo." Long Yunzhan kicked away the dark person in front of him as the blue sparkling long sword in his hand flew towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Then he flew up and joined the battle against the dark guardian. The strength of the two of them suppressed the dark guardian till there was no way for him to advance. On the side of devil class, they had already settled the dark ones and were attacking the elder who had cast the curse. The elder immediately threw out a smoke bomb. Following that, they all stood up and tried to escape. But they were stopped by devil class's students. They rushed up and slit their necks. Those whose necks were directly broken would be directly broken. Chapter 1621. Overestimating Yourself. Wolf Saint Dharma snorted coldly as a chilly glint flashed past his eyes. Following that, he raised his palm and struck out with a palm strike. Devil class students sensed the danger. They could only give up on chasing the remaining 6 elders and evaded. That palm strike seemed to have broken the void, shaking the heaven and earth. After it landed on the ground, it caused the entire flame nest to tremble. The ground, which had already turned into ruins, was like a spider web, with countless cracks densely packed together. A loud boom sound was heard. The ground cracked and gravel flew everywhere. Devil class students evaded in a disheveled manner and some even fell into the cracks. Luckily Yiqing Luo had taught them that set of footwork, which allowed devil class students to avoid the danger. After the surrounding tremors had subsided, devil class students stabilized themselves. Those 6 elders had long hidden behind Wolf Saint Dharma. Following that, they sat down cross-legged and continued to cast their spells, activating the 2 formations forbidden spells once again. Devil class students, go against the dark guardians. Yiqing Luo also noticed the movements over there. With the appearance of Wolf Saint Dharma, devil class students couldn't even think of getting close to those 6 elders. With the death of 4 elders, the formation's speed had slowed down by half. The person who was guarding the elders was Wolf Saint Dharma. Devil class students' current ability was not enough to go against Wolf Saint Dharma. Why not use these 130 over dark guardians for this bunch of youngsters to practice on? Hearing Yiqing Luo's command, those devil class students who had adjusted their formation and were preparing to attack Wolf Saint Dharma almost reflexively moved towards Yiqing Luo's direction. 50 over people attacked those 130 dark guardians in an orderly manner. After Yiqing Luo and Long Yunzhan got away, Then they all attacked towards Wolf Saint Dharma's direction. This coordination. Simply amazing. All the students from various academies were sighing in their hearts. The performance of Devil Class's students had completely refreshed their understanding of Devil Class. The heroic spirit in their hearts was ignited at this moment. One by one they perked up their spirits and became more serious in dealing with this batch of Dark Guardians. Sky Profound first-grade cultivator, dare to challenge the Saint Dharma? Wolf Saint Dharma sneered as he squinted his malicious eyes. No matter how fast Yiqing Luo's advancement was. Even so, he was no match for him. The wolf sacred beast tightened its grip around the woman in its arms and leaped into the air. The wind from his palm moved like 10,000 layers of wind and waves, directly attacking. Yiqing Luo's expression was calm as she waved her glower flame fan and opened it abruptly, blocking that palm wind. The powerful profound qi transformed into a bewitching red glow, forming a beautiful cold lake in midair. In that instant the air was ignited. A sizzling sound could be heard. Boom. The sound of the collision between the qi and the palm wind shook heaven and earth. Soon after, a greenish-white figure broke through the air from the force. Thousands of strands of hair fluttered on her shoulders. It made her extremely beautiful face look even more enchanting and moving. The gourd flame fan in her hand flickered with one complicated profound light after another. Her red lips curled into a smile. At this moment, everything in the world seemed to have lost all its brilliance. There was only one person in the world that could be seen. Wolf Saint technique. If you don't try, how would you know the final result? Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly. The moment her words landed, the expression on her face suddenly turned solemn. Her footwork was displayed. She had already overtaken the direction of Wolf Saint technique. Long Yunzhan immediately coordinated with Yiqing Luo's footwork from the other side. Chapter 1622. Wolf Saint Dharma was carrying Yiqing Qian in his arms. Naturally, he was unable to exert his full strength. Facing Yiqing Luo and Long Yunzhan's encirclement, it was somewhat difficult to deal with. Yiqing Luo and Long Yunzhan's coordination was extremely tacit, totally not giving Wolf Saint Dharma any breathing space. The Dark Ones present, whether it was guardians or elders, were not from his Wolf Saint Dharma's forces. Wolf Saint Dharma was unable to hand the unconscious Yiqing Qian over to the other guardians. Moreover, based on Yiqing Luo's cunning character, Wolf Saint Dharma released Yiqing Qian. In the next moment, Yiqing Qian would probably become Yiqing Luo's bargaining chip to threaten Wolf Saint Dharma. Momentarily, the entire blazing flame lair had sunk into a chaotic battle. The stench of blood filled the skies. In the wooden shed, 4 instructors stood in front of the profound light mirror, staring at the image in the mirror. In the mirror, Ghost Doctor's calm voice was heard. "How is it? Have you found any traces of those students?" No. We've searched the entire blazing flame lair, but not a single student is seen." Instructor Rin answered anxiously. "Not only did we use the profound light mirror to search the surroundings of the blazing flame lair, I've also flipped the entire place with those people from the headquarters, but there's no trace of those students." Instructor Li's face was gloomy. The few instructors were all sweating profusely. All of them had an anxious and uneasy expression. "Continue searching," Ghost Doctor said coldly. "Yes." The 4 instructors responded and immediately assigned another 2 people to follow those people from the headquarters, to continue searching the blazing flame lair. Near the interior of the blazing flame lair, a black and white silhouette, were moving forward swiftly. Ah Wu, the students wouldn't disappear for no reason, could it be? Zhou Mo frowned, recalling the black aura he saw on the profound light mirror earlier. His frown grew even deeper. Ghost Marshall's eyes were filled with a cold glint. "Yes, it's an enchantment. It's indeed an enchantment." Zhou Mo narrowed his long phoenix eyes. "But who can under our eyelids, under the enchantment of those old fellows in the headquarters, can conjure an enchantment that even you can't detect?" This point, no matter how Zhou Mo thought, he couldn't understand. "Dark forces." Gui Wu spat out these 4 words. Zhou Mo's expression congealed slightly. Ever since the news of the dark forces infiltrating into Nirvana realm, because of Yiqing Luo, everyone knew about it. Following that, the Imperial Palace kept on launching attacks against the dark forces, and even destroyed a Saint Technique powerhouse. After a pause, he continued, I'm afraid the dark forces are desperate. Send the news to the Imperial Palace. Gui Wu pondered for a moment before he suddenly spoke. Imperial Palace? Zhou Mo paused. You mean, as long as that girl is here, Dizun will definitely come, Gui Wu said in a low voice. Zhou Mo pursed his thin lips and nodded. If Dizun comes, the dark forces can indeed deal with them, but can those students hold on until that girl is there? Gui Wu lightly said. Zhou Mo frowned as he looked at Gui Wu with a somewhat strange gaze. After a while, Zhou Mo came back to his senses. She's just a little girl with a little luck. Why do you have so much confidence in her? In his memories, Gui Wu had never trusted a person's strength so much. Even for himself. He was constantly questioning and doubting his own abilities. Chapter 1623. Inside the barrier. The students of the various academies had already succeeded in killing the Dark Ones. He then pounced forward to help the Devil class and the others to deal with the Dark Protectors. Because of this, Yan Xiaoyi and the others were able to extricate themselves and join Yiqing Luo and the others in the battle, resisting against the Wolf Saint technique together. With a beauty in his arms, the Wolf Saint technique felt strained. In particular, Yiqing Luo was extremely cunning as she repeatedly attacked Yiqing Qian. Now that Yiqing Qian had fainted, she wouldn't be able to evade by herself. The Wolf Saint Law had to be very, very careful. Furthermore, after Yiqing Luo's attack on Yiqing Qian failed, she didn't stop. She once again passed through Langxing Fa's attack range and directly released her profound energy in the direction of the 6 elders who were protecting Langxing Fa. The 6 elders dodged in panic. Because of Yiqing Luo's harassment, he was unable to continue casting the incantation. As a result, Wolf Saint Dharma had to deal with Long Yunzhan and the others' attacks, and to protect Yiqing Qian from being hurt by Yiqing Luo, and to protect those elders who had no battle ability. After a long time, the Wolf Saint technique was becoming more and more powerless. The situation began to change. The expression on Lang Xingfa's face grew increasingly gloomy. His actions became more and more ruthless. Every time they clashed, they would kill. But the group of students from Devil class were as slippery as loaches. He had no way of hurting them at all. On the contrary, there were several wounds on his body. When had the Wolf Saint technique ever suffered such humiliation? Langxing Fa's expression was extremely gloomy. That vicious gaze seemed to want to tear Yiqing Luo into pieces. Yiqing Luo, who saw Wolf Saint technique's expression, curled her lips into a smile. I say, Wolf Saint technique, put down the person in your arms. If you don't save him, you can totally oppress us little cultivators. Wolf Saint magic tightened his arms and pulled Yiqing Qian into his embrace. She looked as though she was afraid that Yiqing Luo would suddenly make a move on Yiqing Qian. Yiqing Luo's eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. This eldest sister of mine has racked her brains to get together with 2 generations of crown princes and ended up in such a miserable state. I didn't expect her to meet a man who treats her sincerely. How lucky she is. Her eyes were fixed on the expression on the Wolf Saint Dharma face. To tell the truth, Yiqing Luo was unable to understand. How could someone like Lang Xingfa be so infatuated with a woman? From Wolf Saint Dharma's actions of pouncing onto Yiqing Qian the moment they didn't get along with each other, Yiqing really couldn't tell what kind of love this was. But, looking at Wolf Saint Dharma's actions of protecting Yiqing Qian, he would rather get injured than to protect her. Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. What made Yiqing Luo even more astonished was, when she mentioned the 2 crown princes, the expression on Lang Xingfa's face did not change in the slightest. Could it be that Yiqing Qian had already told Wolf Saint technique about her Leng Feng Hua and Leng Feng Ying's matters? Because of this, when he heard about Yiqing Qian's old love, the Wolf Saint technique didn't feel anything? Oh, that was also impossible. If it was Dmo Xian. If she were to be slightly intimate with any man, Dmo Xian's vinegar jar would be overturned. Even though Yiqing Qian had told Wolf Saint Fa about her past. But when it came to old love, shouldn't a man's true reaction be some disgust or displeasure? Only Yiqing Luo didn't have the chance to think deeply. The sole of her feet seemed to be prodded by something. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she regained her senses and lowered her eyelids. She saw the dust billowing on the ground beneath her feet, slowly protruding out a sharp little corner. That little corner would occasionally lean towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Chapter 1624. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. She lifted her foot and forcefully stepped on the small corner. Then he raised his eyes and stared at the wolf saint technique, who was obviously struggling. Her pink lips curled up slightly, and her figure flashed as she approached Long Yunzhan. Already found it? Long Yunzhan saw Yiqing Luo's actions and immediately understood. Yiqing Luo nodded. Should be. I'll be here. Long Yunzhan glanced at her indifferently, gripped the long sword in his hand and charged at the wolf saint technique. Long Yunzhan's sudden burst of powerful profound energy immediately attracted the wolf sacred technique's attention. When wolf saint technique saw who it was, the expression on his face congealed as his malicious gaze shot towards Yiqing Luo, who was not too far away. However, Long Yunzhan didn't fully understand the meaning behind the wolf saint technique's eyes. He had to attract all the attention of the sacred wolf technique. Immediately the thick qi surged again. His attacks became fiercer and fiercer. Brat. Wolf Saint Law dodged a few moves, staring at Long Yunzhan's cold eyes, his face slightly darkening. This fierce shout did not make Long Yunzhan stop his attacks. On the contrary, Long Yunzhan's attacks increased. The Wolf Saint Law couldn't take it anymore and raised his palm to attack Long Yunzhan. Long Yunzhan was focused on attracting the Wolf Saint technique's attention, so he didn't pay attention to anything else. But Yiqing Luo saw it clearly. Wolf Saint Fa seemed to know Long Yunzhan. Furthermore, Wolf Saint Fa had called him brat. Yiqing Luo could tell that the Wolf Saint technique wasn't looking down on Long Yunzhan, but it was similar to how a senior addressed a junior. Saint Wolf Art, Long Yunzhan? No matter how he looked at it, these two people didn't look like they had any connections. Could it be, was that just her imagination? That sharp little horn beneath her feet pushed against Yiqing Luo's feet a few more times. Yiqing Luo restrained the wild thoughts in her heart as her footsteps flashed. Her petite figure quietly disappeared into the air. Not a single person noticed it. Just a moment later, Yiqing Luo had already followed that sharp little horn beneath her feet, as she appeared several tens of meters away from the battlefield. The surrounding trees had already fallen to the ground under the attack of the profound qi. It also happened to cover the petite figure of Mo Ying. Yiqing Luo walked over quickly and immediately bent down, hiding her figure behind the fallen trees. Shadow, have you found the array core? Mo Ying looked at her expressionlessly. Rely on it. Raising his hand, he pointed to the side of Yiqing Luo, that protruding little horn. The small horn was praised and it arched its head on the ground. Then an oval-shaped object crawled out from the ground. That little thing was round and bulging. After rolling on the ground, it landed at Mo Ying's feet. That thing looked like an egg. It was about the size of 2 palms. When the egg reached Mo Ying's feet, suddenly a small thing popped out. Before Yiqing Luo could take a closer look. On the other side of the egg there was another thing. Then another one popped out. After a while another one came out of the jar. 4 slender and long things were waving about. Not long after, his form was revealed. That was hands and feet. An egg gave birth to hands and feet. That's right, it's me, the omnipotent strange beast. A devilish voice like a robot was heard from that egg. 2 small hands grabbed Mo Ying's trousers, extremely proud. Little sister and I have found the array core, it's right here. This was a strange beast? The original body? Yiqing Luo stared at this lump of egg-like creature. Recalling that not long ago deep in the stream she saw that huge bloody mouth. Chapter 1625. Destroy the array eye, the array is about to merge into one. Mo Ying stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking as she spoke mechanically. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about the strange beast's body. She immediately looked towards the direction of Mo Ying's finger. She saw a ball of flickering flame burning in midair where Mo Ying was standing. If one didn't look carefully, it was impossible to detect this flame. And after looking at this flame, Yiqing Luo was able to follow the flame and clearly see the array which was derived from the array eye. The range of the array enveloped the entire area of the fire nest. The array was extremely strange and complicated. Yiqing Luo couldn't see through it with her naked eyes. And every single line of this array was filled with dense profound yin qi. Only this profound yin qi didn't overlap the entire area. But it was concentrated to 1/3 of the line. It was the soul assimilation array. An array which absorbed human souls. It was an extremely vicious type of dark incantation. Yiqing Luo finally understood. Why did the dark forces need to take the extra step to set up an array which provided an endless supply of profound yin qi? This was because the soul assimilation formation required an endless supply of mystical yin qi to form. Yiqing Luo saw it. These lines of the array were burning with a flickering flame at the four corners of this area. This flame, it was the array eye. As long as the flame wasn't extinguished, the array wouldn't be broken. 4 array eye flames. As long as they got rid of these 4 array eyes, this soul assimilation array would be completely destroyed. And they would have enough time to break through the dark force's power and leave this place alive. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. She raised her palm and struck towards the flame. Stop. She suddenly heard Old Man Song's berating voice. Yiqing Luo's hand suddenly stopped in midair. Old Man Song, what are you doing? Yiqing Luo restrained her profound qi. This kind of stopping halfway, it's easy to go into qi deviation. If you hit this palm, then you will really go into qi deviation. Old Man Song heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Yiqing Luo stopping in time. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed. What do you mean? This is a dark curse. If you use your profound energy to directly destroy it, not only will you not be able to destroy the flames in the eye of the formation, it will also easily cause a backlash from the power of darkness. Old Man Song solemnly replied. Yiqing Luo's hand immediately withdrew. Backlash? This array, there was actually a backlash? Then how should I destroy this array? Yiqing Luo knitted her brows tightly. The blood of the one who cast the curse. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her expression turned ugly. I'm already here and you're asking me to take the blood of the person who cast the curse. If she were to return to the Wolf Saint technique's side and forcefully attack the elder, she would be able to obtain the elder's blood. The Wolf Saint technique would definitely notice something amiss. By then she might not have the chance to get close to the eye of the array. Don't you still have the help of that mutant beast? Yes. Let the strange beast pour the Dark Elder's blood onto the formation eye flame and that will do. Yiqing Luo snapped her fingers as her brows were filled with a smile. Mutated beasts could transform into anything in the world. They were using the mutated beasts to transport the blood of the Dark Elder. It was foolproof. Yiqing Luo, what idea have you thought of? A stiff and tense voice rang in her ears. Mo Yu-ing tilted her head, her lowly face was in a daze without any expression. Chapter 1626. Yiqing Luo speedily retreated from this place. Her footwork was like a phantom as she speedily returned to the battlefield. In just a short period of time, Long Yunzhan was still entangled with Wolf Saint technique. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest were still harassing him. But it caused Wolf Saint technique to keep on retreating. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned slightly cold as her footsteps moved. Her figure appeared behind Wolf Saint technique once again. The 6 elders who were continuously casting their spells, on seeing Yiqing Luo who was silently approaching them, their expressions all changed. Yiqing Luo's expression changed. Following that, one of the elders stopped casting his spells, stood up and took out a smoke bomb from his bosom. Before he could kick out, Yiqing Luo's lips curled coldly as she raised her leg and kicked the smoke bomb in the elder's hand out. The smoke grenade drew a perfect arc in the air. Finally, under the rebound of the barrier, it landed on the ground not too far away. Following that, Yiqing Luo had already stuck close to him. Her fingers moved and the glower flame fan flipped in her palm. A sharp dagger shot out from the fan handle, sticking on that elder's neck. The elder's face turned steely green. Before he could say a word, he stopped breathing. After taking an elder's blood, Wolf Saint technique had already reacted and a burst of dense profound qi directly shot towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo had already taken the elder's blood and threw the elder's corpse towards the profound qi. Her figure swiftly retreated, only to see that corpse under the impact of the profound qi. It suddenly split into pieces. Blood splattered everywhere as the air was filled with a thick stench of blood. Yiqing Luo quietly placed the blood in her hand by her feet. The strange beast which had transformed into the ground, silently sent that blood to Mo Yu-ying's side. The elder's blood poured onto the array's flame. That flame was suddenly extinguished. The surrounding array as well as the lingering profound yin qi became extremely messy. There were only 3 array core flames left. Yiqing Luo's gaze looked towards the elders who were fleeing in all directions not too far away. Her eyes turned slightly cold. Yiqing Luo, be careful. she suddenly heard Long Yunzhan's scream. Yiqing Luo's body reflexively dodged to the side. Not knowing when Wolf Saint technique had broken through Long Yunzhan and the others' encirclement, charging right in front of Yiqing Luo. I've underestimated you. The Wolf Saint Law's expression was extremely gloomy. His sinister eyes were filled with ruthlessness. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she revealed a sweet smile. Aren't you surprised? This was obviously a provocation to the Wolf Saint technique. Wolf Saint Law could never have imagined it. Yiqing Luo was actually able to find the array core under such circumstances. Furthermore, he had destroyed the eye of the formation. It was a way to destroy the dark spell. It was impossible for ordinary people to know about it. It was impossible for anyone in the entire Nirvana realm to know about this. How could Yiqing Luo possibly know? The reason why Yiqing Qian had such great confidence in the success of this array was because of this. The dark forces did not go out of their way to protect the formation core. That was because the formation eye of this darkness formation could not be destroyed at all. Even if Yiqing Luo really found the array core, forcefully destroy it with profound qi, he would be devoured by the dark energy at any moment. But Yiqing Luo had successfully destroyed a formation eye. As a result, the formation of the soul assimilation formation was obstructed once more. Impossible. How could Yiqing Luo possibly know the method to destroy the dark array? Could it be there was someone from the lower realm beside Yiqing Luo, helping her? Little slut. I'm going to kill you. Wolf Saint Luo realized the seriousness of the matter. If he continued to underestimate the enemy,